what is it and how to set and achieve your goals for the new year? Specifically, your career and your professional goals. Because I personally think that they need to be a combination of both. Many of us right now are going through performance reviews. I have a team right now, and of course, we have to give performance reviews before the end of our fiscal year or end of our year, right? And around, it happens typically for most companies around December to January timeframe. And it prompts individuals to set their new goals. What is that going to be? But that's just your career goals. What about your professional goals? Well, that's just your main job goals. What about your personal goals as well, too? I think when you set goals, you should be setting your professional goals as well as your personal goals as well. That's important. That is definitely important. But in order for you to set these goals and to achieve these goals into 2023, one of the first things that I think you need to do is to take stock of where you are at that point in time. I had a coaching call with somebody yesterday, a great individual of a Black Heights community. And one of the things I loved about the conversation was that he knew a lot about himself. He knew a lot about himself. What do I mean by that? Oh, well, we're having a conversation. This is our first introduction call and so forth. And he's talking about the different things that he's actually doing to get into the cybersecurity space. And he talked about sales, he talked about cloud, he talked about cybersecurity and so forth. And I'm taking assessment and so forth. And I'm, giving him some advice because it's a mentorship session. And one of the things that he says was, Antoine, I know that I'm not a number one guy. I'm like, I love that. He's like, I know that I'm not a number one. I'm a number two, right? And that made me realize that he knew himself. He's done some personal thought. He's taken stock of who he is as a person, where he wants to go, and what roles that he should be in based on who he is as a person. Because many of us say we want to be in sales, we want to make the big dollars. But are you a number one? Or do you need to be a sales engineer because you're a number two? Those are the questions that I want you to think about as you're thinking about setting goals for yourself, especially for your career and your personal goals. Who are you as a person? But also to take stock of where you are at that moment, right? How is your career supporting your ideal life? What is your career doing to support the lifestyle that you want, right? What do you want your life to look like? Do you want to have that big house? Do you want to have that boat? Do you want to have that nice car, right? Do you want to not have any of that stuff and just have a whole bunch of money in the bank? What do you want it to be? And then you have to reverse engineer your career to meet that lifestyle, right? You have to reverse engineer your career goals from that point on. So if you want that big house, you want that, that nice GTR or that E63, or you want, a Tesla, well, you got to have the career to be able to support such a thing. So if you want all of these things, these are your goals and your vision, your ideal life, nice wife, kids, and all this other stuff. All that stuff comes at a figure. Then you have to reverse engineer how you're going to get there. And a lot of that has to do with money that you're going to be making as well, too. Right. So take stock of where you currently are, right? If you're here and you need to get all the way up here in order for you to have these things, take the inventory where you are right now. And what does that look like? What does that look like? Does that mean going back to school, get an MBA or a Master of Science? Does that mean taking course careers? Does that mean taking level careers? Does that mean taking some sort of cybersecurity boot camp? Take stock of where you are at that point in time. That's the most important thing to do. But I would say this before that, just know who you are as a person, right? There's plenty of ways that you can figure out how what roles are best for you, doing these personality tests that exist out there, from the Myers-Briggs, which is pretty old at this point in time, the IPIP Neo, but they all pretty much fundamentally give you a good understanding of who you are as a person, what tasks you like to do, in some aspects, what roles will you be good at? Okay. So number one, take stock of where you are at that point in time. Number two, zero in. Zero in is very, very important. Okay. When you think about the goals that you're going to be defining for yourself, you need to make sure that you have a roadmap for yourself. Okay. You need to make sure you have a roadmap. But think about how these goals and the steps that you're going to be taking are going to impact your life. And think about what intention that they're going to have or what the intention of it is. So if you're thinking about, okay, well, you know what? I want to sign up for course careers because I want to make a whole bunch of money and I want to live a great lifestyle. Well, zero in on taking course careers, zero in on when you're going to get completed, zero in on when do you think that you're going to be applying for these roles, zero in when you're going to be booking your coaching session with Black Heights, zero in on all of this stuff and write it down. Write it down from a time perspective, when you're going to get it done, when you're going to spend the money, and so forth. You have to make sure that you actually zero in on this stuff. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to tell you this as a career coach that I often see, and even I have faced this in my life as well too, is comparing yourself to others. A lot of times I'm speaking to my mentees and they're like, Antoine, I'm not where I want to be at. I'm 29 and I see all these other people and they're already married and they're already making $100,000. So now I want to, go out of the country and live in this other space so I can save my $100,000 that I'm making and I can have the lifestyle that I have here and all this other stuff, right? Stop comparing yourself to others. That's the most important thing, right? Don't compare yourself to anybody else. I know it's hard. I know it's very, very hard to do, but instead of comparing yourself to others, think about the steps that you're taking, the goals that you have written down, because by this time you have written down your goals, right? Thinking about the intention behind these goals. If you're going to sign up for course careers, the intention should be, I want to become better at sales. I want to understand sales at a fundamental standpoint, right? If you want to sign up for level careers, the intention should be, I want to make as much money when I'm in sales as possible. So you have to make sure that you're zeroing in on your goals and the steps that you need to take in order for you to achieve those goals and write it down. Write it down most importantly, guys. That's going to be the most important thing is as well is write it down. The third thing I would say, guys, is to be realistic about it. You have to be realistic about it and don't think you're going to, start off and because I come on this channel often and you hear other people on this channel talking as well too, that you're going to transition into a career like sales or any other tech field out there, project management, cybersecurity, data analytics, and they're going to go from 0 to 100. It ain't going to happen. I'm going to tell you like this, it's not going to happen. So you have to be realistic about how long it's going to take. And a lot of times, all that is you having to talk to somebody. Because if you go and talk to somebody like myself, and you say, Antoine, you know what? This is where I am. Right? This is where I am right now. I don't have any sales experience, but I'm a data analyst. Okay. And I'm making about $60,000 a year. And you say, Antoine, I want to get into sales, but I kind of want to make about $60,000 a year so I can replace the salary that I have right now. And so I don't have to, struggle and anything like that. And I'll say, okay, well, good. What's up, ladder climbers? It's Antoine Wade. I wanted to interrupt this video to talk to you guys about Course Careers. Course Careers is the place that you guys need to go if you have a high interest into tech sales. They will help you gain the skills that you need so that you can enter the tech sales world to make a whole bunch of money. Tech sales salaries early on is about $60,000, guys. That's a good salary. And with OTEs, you can make anywhere from $85,000 to $90,000. If you have an interest in tech sales, check out Course Careers, link in the description. And don't forget to use Antoine50 so that you can get a $50 discount off of Course Careers. See you guys in tech sales. If you want to get into sales and you want to start from the entry level role, which I recommend you do, sign up for Course Careers. Sign up for Course Careers, take their SDR course, right? Apply after you're done with that. Get a role as a sales development rep. You're going to be making about $55,000, $60,000 a year then. So that's replacing your data analytics salary. But I would also tell you this is plan to be on that SDR role for at least a year or 2 years. Right? Because here's the thing about being an SDR and then making the transition to an AE. Yes, they're in the same, career field, sales. Yes, it is. But they're like playing two different instruments, right? One is a flute and another one is a trombone. And yes, just because you know how to play the instrument and read music but it doesn't necessarily mean you know how to play, transition from playing a flute into, playing a trombone or a trumpet or something along those lines. So when you think about your transition, I want for you guys to be realistic and don't just think that, hey, you know what, I'm going to jump into sales and I see, a Damien who's making $150,000 a year, but I'm only at 80. I'm going to be making $150,000 a year next year. No, be realistic. Yes, you can get to $80,000 next year. The cool thing about sales is that if you're making 150 and you do decide to take a step back, right? And you're making 80, in 2 years, you can be making 200. So you can far pass what you were making at 150. Okay. That's the cool thing about sales in general. But I just want for you all to be realistic into your goal setting so that you can achieve those goals going into 2023. That's how I do it. I say to myself, hey, you know what? I'm going to be launching this venture. Yes, I'm expecting to make $1 million, right? Right. That's the opportunity. But realistically, I say, if we get to, 10,000 our first month, that's good. Am I expecting to get to $1 million our first month? Hell no. I know that's not realistic, especially for a new business, right? So being realistic about your goals and how you're going to achieve them is important as well too. And the last thing, but not least, is monitoring your progress, right? Whether you monitor your progress by, writing it down, coming back to it every month, looking at your brag book, whatever it is, monitor your progress because that is important in order for you to determine if you have achieved your goals or not. It's kind of like the same thing as if you want to lose weight. What do? You monitor your progress by jumping on the damn scale. You may not do it every single day, but a lot of strength and conditioning coaches recommend you do it every day. Or if they don't recommend you do it every day, they recommend you do it every other day. If they don't recommend you do it every other day, they recommend you doing it every goddamn week. Right. So you have to monitor your progress. And a lot of times, I would say this if you're talking about career growth from getting promoted to making more money to shifting into a different industry, something like that, you probably want to do it on a quarterly basis, right? Set some time, at the end of March next year, make sure you look and monitor your progress. At the end of, April, May, June, at the end of June, right? Do it again. End of September, do it again. And then that'll take you into the fourth quarter of next year. And if you monitor your progress, you will see that you've actually achieved a lot. You've achieved a lot. A lot of times, I can probably bring some people onto this conversation right now and say, hey, what have you achieved in 2022? A lot of people be like, I don't know. Right. And it's because you probably didn't track your progress and you didn't monitor your progress as well. If you monitor your progress, you will understand that you're making a lot more progress than what you give yourself credit for. And I think about that as myself in 2022, made a lot of progress. I've made a lot of progress to my overall career goals from starting off November 2021 with, I believe, less than 10,000 subscribers. And we've doubled that. And I give you guys all the credit for coming here on every Saturday morning to watch me talk and to give back, right? And I wanted to be at 20,000 subscribers by the new year. That was my goal. We got there before then, which is great. Slow growth, but you see it ramping up. It doesn't need to be 50,000 and so forth. We will eventually get there. Maybe that takes us 2 years. Maybe that's next year with a different content strategy. But ultimately, that progress is there, and I've been measuring that. And I think about the other ventures that I'm actually working on, or either my corporate role, to where I got promoted twice this year. My goal was coming into 2022 was to have a new position. I got that in March. My goal after that was to make as much money as possible in that position and got promoted again. Right. So I have all of these measurables and all of these achievements that I can look back at and say, hey, you know what? Um, I had a pretty damn good year. Now, not to say that 2022 was an easy year at all. It was a tough year because in personal lives and stuff like that, we've had to deal with death. We've had to deal with the death of my wife's father, death of my father. We've had to deal with surgeries. We've had to deal with all sorts of stuff that not going the right way. We had to deal with the move. We've had to deal with all sorts of stuff, right? And when I look back at it, I say it was a great year overall, but it was one of those years that had a lot of ups and downs. But overall, you still need to monitor your progress in your personal and your professional life. So that's number one, guys. That's what I want to talk about today is how to set and achieve your personal goals going into 2023, right? If I go back to what I said, one, take stock of where you are at this point in time. So take inventory, where you all are today, where you are today. Zero in on what is it that you want to achieve. Why do you want to achieve it? What is it that you need to achieve? When are you going to achieve it? Dial it in. Be realistic about it. Know that you aren't going to go to making $60,000 a year to making 500 in 1 year. That's going to take you some time. That may take you 10 years to get to 500, but you can definitely get there. You can definitely get there, or that may take you 2 years. If you are dedicated to your craft, you're reading books, you are listening to podcasts, you're becoming an industry expert in the field that you're in, it may take you 2 years to get there. Ultimately, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And last thing I would say, guys, is to monitor your progress. That's going to be very important for you to keep track of what you're going to be doing, but also it just feel good about the goals that you set, because a lot of times people set these goals going into the new year, and next you know they don't monitor them, man. They don't monitor them at all. And monitoring your progress is going to allow for you to understand what is it that you're achieving and when, so that you can set new goals. That's important, is to set new goals as you continue to make progress. Okay.